Radio Raheem here with Tom Loeffler, coming off a big win, Madison Square Garden. Triple G put on a hell of a performance, and the crowd got a tight fight. Being a promoter, I know that there's a lot of pluses. Always when your guys win, there's a lot of things to talk about that are positive. But I ask you this because so many people are used to seeing Triple G win. They're used to knockouts 23 in a row. With the fight ending at the distance and being close, did you feel that he got any unfair criticism at the end of that fight?
Oh, I think, look, this was the first decision since I've been involved with Triple G that actually went to a decision where he didn't get a knockout. So you see what happened with Chocolatito, the fight right before it, and then you know, going to decision. Then you always wonder, okay, what's gonna happen? I think Gennady, you know, clearly won the fight. He had the knockdown. He, you know, kept pressing forward. You know, he was landing clean punches. But look, you can't take anything away from Danny Jacobs. Danny fought a very competitive fight. He rose to the occasion. A lot of people get intimidated, you know, when they're on the big stage like that, in front of a full Madison Square Garden, you know, being shown internationally in over 100 countries. You know, people sometimes freeze up like that. And Danny clearly rose to the occasion. There's no losers in that fight. Danny increased his marketability. Maybe people will be afraid to fight him now since you know, he put on such a tremendous performance. But you know, Danny's young; he's only 30 years old, and we're confident he's going to become a champion. So it was a great night for the fans. You know, whenever you can put two, I think it was probably the best two fights that I've seen. You know, I'm biased. It was our show, but it's the best two fights between Chocolatito and Rungvisai and Triple G and Danny Jacobs on a show like that in a long time. And then HBO, because it was such a great combination, they actually showed, instead of just the main event, they showed both fights on the replay. And you know, the fan reaction showed that they really enjoyed the fight. You know, they were both very competitive fights. And you know, with Chocolatito and Rungvisai, if we can, you know, Chocolatito wants to, you know, try to get his title back. So you know, hopefully we can look at that and try to do a rematch maybe out here in Los Angeles.
I mean, obviously for Rungvisai, that's got to be the best money he's going to be able to make off those titles. Are you getting any resistance about putting that rematch? It almost seems like an automatic.
It's a little bit premature right now. We're waiting to see what the WBC does. But, I mean, you look at a guy, I mean, this is the essence of boxing. You look at a guy from Thailand who really came from very, very modest background. You know, his promoter was talking about how he's a trash collector, and a lot of times didn't have enough, his family didn't have enough food to eat and things of that nature. And then being able to beat the #1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world in Madison Square Garden on HBO pay-per-view. I mean, that's it doesn't get bigger than that. So he really took the opportunity presented to him, you know, winning the title. And look, Chocolatito's a tremendous champion, great ambassador for the sport of boxing, and Chocolatito has such a competitive spirit that we know, you know, he wants to get his title back. So if there's a way to do that rematch, we'd certainly do everything we can to make that happen.
You know, ironically, when a fighter like Triple G, who's clearly a knockout artist, goes the distance, and then a fighter like Brook has some success against him, even after, you know, ultimately being stopped, you've got no shortage of guys calling out Triple G. But this time, they may actually mean it because they feel like they've seen some cracks in the armor. Do you think that even with these wins, both being definite wins, it may have improved your position to be able to make the matchups that you want?
Well, we hope so. We sure hope so. I mean, before, you know, when we're negotiating with guys, I mean, they would want retirement money. They were negotiating as if that would be their last fight, you know, getting in the ring with Triple G. And I'm like, well, it's just a fight. You know, even if you lose, you can still, you know, come back and win a title. But, you know, that's what, you know, some of the critics are saying. And we hope that it's the same mentality for some of the middleweight champions, that they'll actually, you know, get in the ring with them and risk, you know, trying to win a fight for him. You know, he's kind of now coming from the Predator, where he was chasing everyone. You know, when Felix Sturm was, you know, considered the best champion, or Sergio Martinez was the best champion, and we could never make those fights happen. Now Gennady has clearly cemented his legacy as the best middleweight out there. And you know, if we can do a fight with Billy Joe Saunders, look, we tried it last year. Now I see, you know, Billy's very active on social media, and he likes the videos. And you know, if he sees something that if he sees something that he feels like he can actually win the fight now, then that's great. I mean, that's always been Gennadi's dream, is to unify all the titles. And same thing with Canelo. You know, if we can make the Canelo fight, we would have loved to do the Canelo fight last year, but if we can do it in September this year, then we'll do it.
You know, it seems like, well, the way Oscar's talking, you've got something of a Sophie's choice here. We've known that Triple G wants to unify those titles for years. Yep. He's come so close now. There's only one outstanding title. It's Parker, who seems game for the, or Saunders, I'm sorry, seems game for the fight. But Oscar said if you take that fight in June, Canelo's off the table. So given that choice, waiting for Canelo and possibly making a deal, or Triple G finally getting that goal of having all the middleweight titles, what do you select? What do you pick?
Yeah, I mean, that was, you know, Oscar said that in the media, but it hasn't really been reflected in my discussions with Golden Boy, with Eric Gomez. Look, you know, if Gennady can accomplish his dream and fight in June and unify the titles, then you know, he'll go ahead and do that. If we can make a fight, you know, we don't even have a fight signed with Canelo yet, so it's hard to say, okay, we'll forego a fight when we don't even have a fight signed.
Another thing Oscar said in the media is that after seeing the performance of Triple G and seeing the numbers on pay-per-view, that he's sending you a different offer, that changes everything. I'm assuming that that's probably not true either based on what you just said, but is it true? And then even whether it is or isn't, is that like an insult? Does that make these things even more difficult to lock down?
Look, when fighters think they have no chance of winning a fight, that's when they want, you know, crazy amounts of money. So, you know, hopefully, you know, Canelo's inspired by the performance that gives him, you know, glimmer of hope that, you know, he can win the fight. I mean, Canelo, we're not taking anything away from Canelo. I have a lot of respect for him and what he's accomplished in his career. I think the numbers of that fight that generates, it's going to be both Triple G and Canelo's biggest payday of their career. So whenever you have financial structure like that, it's just working out all the details. You know, fights like that are there's so many different revenue streams that you know, you have to go through each one and make it so that it's fair to both sides. And if there's a way to make it happen, we'll certainly figure out a way with Eric Gomez to try to make that fight happen.
And lastly, you know, Abel Sanchez has made quite a bit of news this week as well, finding an end around of all of this.
What did Abel say now?
Well, he says, you know, I mean, you get Saunders, he gets that unified middleweight title goal accomplished, and Canelo hasn't made a deal. They're willing to go up to 68 and face Ward, of all people. Is that a conversation that you've had with Abel? Is that something that you would seriously do?
Well, we've always said that Gennady could move to 168 pound if it made sense. You know, we tried to make the Chavez fight, we tried to make the Froch fight. Now Ramirez is talking about fighting Triple G. He's an undefeated 168 pound champion. Look, Andre Ward, if he beats, you know, he's got the Kovalev rematch or whatever they figure out they're going to do on that one. If he can win that fight, and if he can come back down to 168, I think that's a great fight. When they were originally talking about fighting Gennady, that's when we had the Lemieux fight. That's when we had the Cotto Canelo winner, you know, in our sights. And you know, my response was clearly, you know, if Andre's at 168, we can make that fight. I think that's a tremendous matchup now that Andre's active again. And Gennady, look, if Gennady can beat Canelo, that makes that fight even that much more interesting. And I think with this win over Danny Jacobs, it just opens up a lot of doors, whether it's with Saunders, whether it's with Canelo, whether it's with Ramirez, whether it's with Ward, depending on what happens with his fight. I think it's a lot of doors that are open that previously weren't open because people just didn't want to get in the ring with Gennady.
It sounds like Ward would definitely take that fight at 68, and it's a huge challenge for Triple G. So if Canelo isn't ready to come to the table for this year, for September, would you fight Ward at 68, assuming he's willing?
Well, we have to see, again, we have to see what happens with his rematch with Kovalev. Ramirez is fighting in April, and Bob's been very proactive in trying to make that fight. I think that's a great fight. We've always wanted to go to Texas with Gennady. If we can do a fight with Ramirez in Texas, that's a tremendous matchup. And then we'll have to see what the options are over there. You know, Eubanks now is getting active again on social media. So, well, we're not really talking to him, but he's talking about, you know, fighting. You know, it seems like people really talk about fighting Triple G when they talk the most about fighting with Triple G when they have the least amount of risk of actually getting the fight to be made. So that's just been been an unbelievable phenomenon I've never experienced with any other fighter that I've worked with. But like I said, now that hopefully people think that he's slowing down and you know, he's not as dominant as he once was, and somehow he lost his punching power overnight. And if that's the case, then hopefully we can make these fights at you know, the big fights that we've always been looking for.
Hopefully we can. It was a great show in New York at Madison Square Garden. Thank you for that. We'll be seeing you in the ring one way or the other with Triple G soon, and we'll be seeing Usyk in the ring on the Lomachenko undercard. So Radio Raheem here with Tom Loeffler. Always a pleasure, sir.
Thanks, Raheem.
See you again soon.
All right.